Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Guys YouTube channel where the Force is family, and welcome back to Animation Friday. I am Master Paul, joined once again by Epic John and Darth Nader 98. And this is admittedly going to be somewhat, at least on the Clone Wars side of things, is going to be somewhat of a kind of a lightweight stream because we're only covering 2 episodes, and these are kind of more standalone. They're both connected, but they're not really connected to anything, if that makes sense. So the 2 episodes we are talking about tonight are Mercy Mission and Nomad Droids. And we'll go around the course going over our individual thoughts on these episodes before we get into the details, but I'm just going to say, at least for me, these felt the most kiddish and filler of all of the episodes that we've gotten so far. What do you guys think?
I can kind of see that, though somehow it wouldn't surprise me that some weird thing like this wouldn't happen, or would happen.
Yeah. It's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just compared to literally everything, compared to what the arc that we just got with everything involving Mon Cala and, the Gungans capturing Grievous and what we've got coming up next week. It just kind of seems like the more sillier of the arcs.
That is a good point, and it's probably a good thing because a little too much darkness can hide away the light, shall we say. Got to keep ourselves balanced.
You're right. Absolutely.
Perfectly
So
balanced,
yeah,
as all things
that's my
should be.
thoughts. So yeah, what do you guys think?
I think these
Well,
two were kind of just there.
Yeah, I could see that. Nate, anything further to add?
I'll agree they were kind of just there, though. I did appreciate having something R2 and 3PO centric, being as they really were the comedic duo of the original trilogy. And I don't
Yeah.
think we got to see as much of that in the prequel trilogy, or even really throughout much of the Clone Wars as we all wanted to. Because
Yeah,
Darth Jar Jar.
of course. All right, so real quick, couple things to go over before we start. Once we're done, just double checking, Nate, you have been keeping up also with Kenobi, correct?
I just watched the 3rd episode yesterday.
Okay, good, because John has not gotten a chance yet to share his thoughts on the first 3 episodes. So as soon as we're done with the Clone Wars stuff, we're going to go over that. And also, number 2, something else I want to show you. We've started something new with Animation Friday where we've taken all of the arcs and we've put together a tier list.
Oh,
And so, of
interesting.
course, once we're done, of course, going over all the episodes in detail, we'll pick them out of the haven't seen category here and place them up here. And the way that I do tier lists, for those that don't know, is the closer to the top and to the letter that they are, that's the highest you can go in the tier. So Overlords, the Mortis arc, that's number 1 of S tier. Rookies is number 1 of A tier, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And yes, I put Hunt for Zero at F tier because of Sice Noodles.
Yeah, that really wasn't my favorite episode either.
Yeah.
If there's any character, if I could pick one character to assassinate and make never exist in the Star Wars universe, it would be, well, I don't know if I'd use it on Snice Noodles. I would want to more use it on Haldo.
Understandable.
But
Yeah.
but Sly Stoodles is in a very uncomfortable third place.
Though I
Yes,
would argue, if we got rid of Jar Jar, we wouldn't have had a lot of the things that happened in the timeline happen.
that is very true.
Then again, I think Palpatine would have just chose somebody else to say give him emergency powers.
Okay, not
Because
wrong, not wrong.
All right. So,
some
anyways,
pretty
getting into these episodes. So, starting with Mercy Mission. So, this episode starts with the Wolf Pack escorting R2D2 and C3PO to this planet. I think it's called Alima. That is a very, very primitive world, and they've been having a whole bunch of earthquakes that have pretty much shattered whatever infrastructure that they have. And so their job is to basically get down there, establish sort of a emergency relief center, reestablish communications, and then get out of there to go and join Master Gallia off on another system during her battle. So we see more of Wolf, who, real quick, because we haven't seen it up to this point, how did Wolf get that scar across his eye?
I don't remember, though. I think it may have to do with one of the previous arcs, though I'm not for sure.
I'm gonna look it up because it's gonna bug me if we don't figure it out. How did Wolf get his scar? Okay, let me see. He, here, let me share what I got here. So this is from Wikipedia. Sometime later, the Wolfpack's ranks were replenished with new troopers, and Wolf and his battalion participated in a battle on Korm, where he fought alongside Skywalker. During the fight, Wolf was permanently scarred when Ventress cut his right eye, leaving a long scar across the right side of his face. He later had a silver cybernetic replacement installed. Despite his injury, Wolf continued to serve and lead his troops. Now, did we see this place at all? Um,
No.
Okay, so this was a comic series. Okay, I gotcha. Hmm. Yeah. So it was a comic that he got his scar from, not in an episode. So that's why we
Okay.
didn't see it.
could be Legends.
No, it's canon. It
Oh,
was listed under the canon tab. All right. So they land on this world, and I'm not sure what this species of alien is, but we've seen this species before. In fact, I'm going to show you guys. Um, we've seen this species before represented in episode 1 during the pod race. Do you guys remember this guy? His name is Odie Mandrell, and the announcers mention him as Odie Mandrell and his record-setting pit crew droids.
I feel like I vaguely remember it, but not enough to say I 100% can.
Yeah. John, you know what I'm talking about, right?
yeah.
All right, so yeah, that's basically the species that they're visiting. And the whole reason that R2 and C3PO are along is so that C3PO can be the translator, since he is fluent in over 6 million forms of communication. And R2 is there to help get their communication systems back online. So it's also made clear right off the bat that Wolf really doesn't have the patience to deal with any of this. His mind really isn't on this mission. It's on getting to Master Gallia and helping out with that fight. Also, another thing, randomly, they call C-3PO shiny, which, of course, we know from earlier in the Clone Wars is a term that they also use for brand new clones. Your armor, it's shiny and new, just like you. We should start using that term, by the way, Nate, at work.
Well, the problem
Yes.
is the uniforms aren't shiny. I guess we can have them polish the leather on their equipment.
Perhaps. But
I
anyways,
do not want to work where you work. Simply because I know that a lot of the people who I don't like are going to work there.
Now, you don't know that.
But I can make an assumption.
John, check the private chat. Don't say this name out loud, but check the private chat.
I got you. I got you.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I got you.
There's more of you.
Yeah, me and
Unfortunately.
Austin always sit together at lunch, and like Mr. Osborne always jokes with us that we're double trouble.
All right, so anyways, continuing on. These natives to this planet just about worship C-3PO like a god, sort of foreshadowing how the Ewoks treat C-3PO. By the way, hello to Phil McCracken, who says this isn't Skyrim. I know. Maybe we'll do some Skyrim after this is over. We'll see. Or we might do Fallout 4. Who knows?
Ooh.
But anyways, they treat C-3PO and the clones pretty much like gods. And they ask and they're basically under the understanding that the clones and the droids are there to solve the problem of why, quote, the ground is shaking. We want you to make peace with the ground. And of course, Wolf kind of blows them off, saying, no, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to just establish emergency relief, reestablish communications with the Republic, and then get out of here. But of course, C-3PO, being the eternal diplomat that he is somewhat taking their request seriously. And of course, R2 is being R2. You're going to hear me say that a lot tonight, by the way. So while they're there, R2 and C-3PO are led to this, what looks like a giant manhole cover made out of gold. This is after R2, by the way, starts the downloading process, and there's been some more shenanigans between the natives and C-3PO and Wolf. But R2 and C-3PO end up falling down this giant manhole, and they land in this underground, basically series of tunnels. And they are swarmed by what I could have sworn was Wisties from the Ewok movies. Have you seen those, by the way, Nate? Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor?
I haven't seen them entirely, though I've seen bits and pieces. I need to actually go back, sit down, and watch them.
Okay, you probably would have also seen them, by the way, in Battlefront 2 when you're playing Ewok Hunt. The Ewoks have those as weapons.
Okay.
I got a question.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
Ewoks movie canon or Legends?
Legends.
Yes.
All right.
Legends.
Funny that you can find something Legends on Disney Plus, huh?
I'm just waiting for them to release the Star Wars Christmas special on there.
They're never going to do that. Yeah. Real quick, Cobra Disney Jedi says, yo, what's up? Just popping in to say hi. Getting ready for my show in a little over an hour. Awesome, man. Thank you. And I hope you have a fantastic show. So, continuing on. They continue down this tunnel where they find these weird tree people, is the best way I can describe them. That, of course, accuses them of trespassing down there in their turf, And they say that essentially they are the ones causing the earthquakes because the breach has been broken between the people on the surface and them down below, and that the air to the surface without the proper filtration system is poisonous to them. They also meet what I can only describe as a frog lady that's made up by all of these weird little pixie things. She tries to shoot her tongue at C-3PO and it's like, "No, I can't eat you." And she says the same thing. You need to solve this. You need to help seal the breach if you want to get off this planet. And she gives them a riddle. Now I'm going to see if I can find the riddle that she says so I can say it word for word. Okay, here's the riddle that she gives. You can run but cannot walk. You have a mouth but cannot talk. You have a head but never weep. You have a bed but never sleep. Now, pretend you haven't seen the episode. What would you guess the answer to that would be?
You know I'm dumb. You know I can't
I
solve
know,
that.
that's why I asked you, John.
I'm going to be honest. I still would have guessed dihydrogen monoxide.
Nerd.
Of course you would have.
Nerd.
Or for the or for the non-scientifically minded, water. Hello, by the way, to Alice83 Ashla, who says her name is Orphany. Thank you. So yeah, basically, R2 is the one who figures out the riddle, although C-3PO, being the pompous droid that he is, takes the credit. And they are able to, basically, they stand in the center of the floor. R2 shoots water at a certain tile, and suddenly the floor lifts them up, and then they're sucked into this flower. And somehow that flower transports them back to the surface with a lot of water.
I'm going to
It's
go with
kind
the
of weird.
Force.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that too, or aperture science portal technology.
Now who's turning into the sci-fi nerd?
You're not wrong. Lero says justice for Nick loves him. We'll see what happens with that when Bad Batch season 2 comes out. Anyways, as soon as R2 and C-3PO make it back to the surface, poisonous air starts coming out of the manhole cover, and all of the natives that had been sort of leading a prayer ritual to get the droids back, they start suffering from it. In fact, one nearly dies until they figure out that sealing the breach means closing the manhole cover. So R2 and C-3PO have to work together to push it back into place. And just like that, all of the planet's problems are solved. So R2 and C-3PO reunite with Wolf. And of course, C-3PO wants to tell him absolutely everything that had happened to them. Wolf doesn't have the patience for it. In fact, one of his troopers says, "When we get back to the ship, sir, we're dropping these guys off." And Wolf's like, "Gladly." And that's the end of the episode.
Something I can't
So
help but think about in the back of my head is I'm wondering if some real world events did have an influence on why particularly they chose earthquakes. Because if I'm mistaken, this would have came out in what, late 2011, early 2012,
I think so.
which means it probably would have been going into production everything around the time of the earthquakes in Haiti.
Possibly. I'm not. Admittedly, I wasn't paying attention to the news when the earthquakes in Haiti happened, but I can see where there would be inspiration drawn from that.
Well, was it
As a star,
released during then?
it didn't release, but it would have been being made.
Alright.
Yeah, because I imagine each episode probably took anywhere from a year to 6 months to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes like a year to make one season of a show, and it takes a year to make an episode from scratch, like completely from scratch.
So with all of that, then, let's do this. If you guys were to score this episode out of 5, what would you give it?
Hmm.
3.8.
3.8. Okay. Nate?
I gotta go with a solid 3.
Okay. That's I'm gonna go 3 also. It's by no means the most exciting Clone Wars episode. It is for sure filler, but it's harmless. There's nothing in it that's outright bad.
Though
So
that scene with Orphane, it looked like something out of a video game, honestly.
kinda did.
Like the Great Fairy scenes from Zelda.
And the tree people honestly didn't even look like Star Wars.
Yeah, they looked like kind of like Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy.
I am
Yeah,
Groot.
a little bit. All right, so next episode and the last episode of the night. Wow, we're on the last episode and it's only 21 minutes down. And that is Nomad Droids. So this takes place pretty much immediately after the last one did. So R2 and 3PO are heading home to Coruscant, where Padme wants C-3PO to oversee some sort of senatorial banquet that she's hosting.
It doesn't matter.
And
He
yeah,
does it.
that is true. So the travel home is interrupted because Grievous and his flagship attacks the Republic cruiser that they're on, along with Master Galia. And so we get somewhat of a similar scene to what we get in like the opening of the very first Star Wars movie, where we basically see the chaos of the fight on that ship almost through the eyes of R2 and C-3PO. Although the action is very, very different. Instead of stormtroopers mowing down rebels in a rare fit of accurate marksmanship, couldn't resist on that one.
You're not wrong.
We get the droids and the clones duking it out, and we get Master Galia and Grievous duking it out, which is weird. Something weird happened also in this. We see Grievous using 2 lightsabers of the same color. That never happens.
No,
Think
He
about it.
decided to double his abilities
Think about it.
and not
He
focus on the other
always,
one.
anytime you see him using 2 lightsabers and only 2 lightsabers, it's 1 blue one and 1 green one. But here, it's 2 blue ones.
I have to go back and rewatch the episode. I did not notice that.
Yeah. Oh, actually, something else, though, that I forgot to mention in the last episode. These 2 episodes are the very first time, and this is big, that we see the clone troopers wearing their iconic Phase 2 armor. Which, I can't lie, at first, I always preferred the Phase 1 armor over the Phase 2. I think I prefer the Phase 2 armor now. Especially, I don't know, I guess seeing how it's rendered in Battlefront 2. So yeah, so let's talk about that. Which clone armor do you guys prefer? Phase 1 or Phase 2?
I'd say for me, it really depends on the use case. Because kind of going into it, if I'm mistaken, the Gen 1 armor was actually a little bit more suited for atmospheric and not as breathable atmospheres, while the Gen 2 armor was a lot more maneuverable. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see a little later on in the series Rex come up with his chopped up hybrid armor.
Yeah.
So I'd say I probably prefer the hybrid type armors, though in most situations I'd probably prefer the maneuverability, so I'd recommend the Gen 2.
Yeah. For me, it all comes down to the helmets. I think Gen 2 has a cooler helmet. Because you can see it's a cross between the Gen 1 helmet and what would eventually be the Stormtrooper helmet.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that the Gen 2 armor was sort of meant to foreshadow the Stormtrooper armor.
Yes. And of course, I also say this, the Phase 2 helmet looks way better painted than the Phase 1 helmet. Because by this point, pretty much everyone's in their different battalions, like the 501st, the 212th, the Wolf Pack, and the colors no longer mean rank; they mean, what unit are you in?
Now I'm curious to know how they denoted the various different ranks. Because I know some of the higher ranks they had their pauldrons and stuff, but you also had the arcs had those.
Yeah, that's honestly even before this show. Before when the ranks actually did denote color, it was still hard for me to figure that out. So I have no clue. So, anyways, with that, R2 and C3PO eventually escape the battle, much like they do in A New Hope, but this time instead of taking an escape pod, they take a Republic Y-Wing, with C3PO in the main pilot's cockpit and R2 in his usual R2 spots. And they kind of engage in the dogfight a little bit. Of course, C3PO is complaining the whole time because it's C3PO. But eventually, they get shot down and they land on this one planet. I don't even think they say what the name of the planet is. But from this point on, at least on this planet, it is literally Gulliver's Travels. Because R2 and C3PO, they ended up getting captured by these little people. And I mean little. And they're tied down. Literally all of the imagery of the first part of Gulliver's Travels, when Gulliver gets stranded on Lilliput and the people capture him. However, in a twist I absolutely did not see coming, their leader, I don't even remember what his name is. We'll just call him the Big Boss.
I think he was the Big Jesus.
Something like that. He orders them to get out of there, and C3PO is trying to be like, oh yes, thank you. R2 here, and this is where he sort of gives R2 a pat on the back. He accidentally tips R2 over onto their leader, crushing him and killing him like a bug. Like you see his guts when C3PO pulls him up. And I get it, they're like bugs to them, but still, because of that, I have to increase the counter of Clone Wars is for kids. Now we're at 17.
Perfect. Imagine we get to 50 by the time this is over.
Who knows? The orders. We might.
We are about ready to embark on Umbara.
That is true. Thank you, Alice83 Ashley. The Big Hay Zoo. Yeah. And think about this. If Riff Tamson had the most gnarly death in all of the Clone Wars, at least up to this point, this has to be a solid second place. Which side note, real quick, do you want to real quick, Nate, since you weren't here last week, shoot on the Mon Cala arc?
Admiral, it's a trap, Akbar.
Mm-hmm. We also last week talked about the one episode where Grievous gets captured by the Gungans.
Okay, so that's after Boss Leone gets tricked, and Jar Jar kind of has to
Impersonate him, yes.
impersonate. The Mon Cal arc was definitely a favorite. I guess it's because it was such a different environment. Plus, you're getting to see that three-dimensional battle really take place in a way that it hasn't taken place before.
Mm-hmm.
As of course today we yes have three-dimensional, but you have your ground, your air, and your water. Versus in that, literally everything was three-dimensional, regardless whether you're the lone foot guy all the way up to your more powerful equipment that's meant to take out the bigger stuff.
True.
So it's really interesting to see that. Plus, anytime you get to see either the Republic and some system fighting alongside each other, or the Separatist and another system fighting alongside each other, that's a real interesting thing. And it was really nice to kind of see both of them going at it for the fate of this planet. In my opinion, we didn't see that really too much until really about this season onward. Because let's
Yeah.
see, Onderon is still yet to come.
Mm-hmm. And isn't that, if I'm not wrong, the arc where we're introduced to Saw Gerrera?
Yes.
Okay. Lies! Deceptions!
I gotta admit, after
Alright.
Rebels, I didn't care for him too much.
Understandable. Although he is pretty cool in Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, he is.
And then the one where Grievous gets captured by the Gungans.
Out of all the random planetary defense forces to take on the droid army,
Mm-hmm.
you think Grievous would have stayed away from them? They kind of have a history of beating them, maybe by
That,
sheer luck, but they still beat them.
yeah. But at the same time, as ridiculous as that situation is, when you actually see it, it's amazing. Not just because of Grievous getting taken down by this seemingly clumsy race, but at the same time, them proving once and for all that they may appear clumsy, but they are very, very capable and competent warriors. Like, it's literally drunken master stuff. And of
Yes, it is.
course, General Tarpals gets killed and he dies a warrior's death.
Yes, unto Valhalla for him.
Exactly. And we also literally get within a hair of breaking canon in that episode, where all Grievous would have had to do was look down to his left to see Anakin, but he didn't.
Well, to be fair, his neck is already really. So, PJ, can you try and do the Grievous neck thing for me?
I can't. It would hurt.
Exactly. I think it would just hurt too much to look down.
Yeah.
And I also just realized between those two arcs and Phantom Menace, that makes the Gungans 3-0 against a droid army.
That is true. That is
Droid army's
very
weak.
true. And it kind of makes you wonder how the Gungans would have fared against stormtroopers had the rebellion tried to contact them.
Who knows? There might be some smaller Gungan rebellion that just never got any press.
Alice83 makes a good point. If Anakin didn't get caught, though, yeah, he kind of walked into that one stupidly. Although, I pointed this out last week, and I'll point it out again. That fight that he had with Dooku only won that because he had like half a dozen Magna Guards basically bum rushing Anakin. Had that been a true one-on-one, I don't think, like, maybe Dooku could have won if he fought smarter, not harder, but he would have barely escaped it. And even at the end of the fight, you see him out of breath. Like his age is more and more slowly catching up to him, and Anakin's getting more and more stronger. Real quick, hello to a common idiot who says can't stay, but wanted to drop in and say hey to everyone in the chat. Smash that like button. Thank you very much. And real quick, also hello to DJ Ronnie G.
Gungan style.
Yeah.
We're going to turn that into a K-pop hit.
I'm pretty sure someone's already done it. Look at if it's on. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere.
Probably on TikTok
K-pop
too.
Gungan style?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, not Gangnam style. Gungan style.
Yes, Gungan style.
Yes. All right. So back to the episodes we're talking about, though. So R2 has inadvertently killed pretty much a world leader by falling over and squishing him. And now all of his people, in an even weirder turn of events, are happy about this. When just a minute ago they were supporting him, now they're happy he's dead. And now C-3PO basically has to run them through a crash course on democracy. And he lists out the criteria, who's the smartest, who's the most compassionate, who's the most intelligent. And 3 people are sent forward that meet those criteria. And they basically decide mob rule as to who's gonna, who gets the most cheers. And that's how they decide their next leader of their people. And of course, this starts an argument, and R2 and C-3PO bail on this. So
I ain't gonna deal with none of that.
exactly. I like what C-3PO said. We're going to be going now. Enjoy flourishing your happy democracy. Or something like that.
For some reason, this brings me back to some of the early parts of kind of the collapse of the Russian Empire, and just before the rise of the Soviet Union, and before the war between the White Russians and Red Russians.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like there's a loose, ugly battle between like 50 million different political ideas.
Yep. So after this, R2 and C-3PO have to emergency land their ship again because they're running low on power. Not just the ship, but they themselves are running out of power. So they land on the ship, which C-3PO notes. I think he said they're in the Bownet system, a system that's very, very early in its organic evolution. And so C-3PO, of course, is scared to go out there, but R2 is R2. He goes anyways. They get captured by these random people that have, I guess you could say, an electro net gun that they're able to capture them with, and it's literally the same thing all over again. They get brought before this people's leader, except this time their leader isn't tiny. He is literally doing the same gig as Oz the Great and Powerful. And that, by the way, ends the same way as The Wizard of Oz, where R2 does happen to pay attention to the man behind the curtain, at least in this case, droids, and the leader is outed as the fraud that he is. Although the setup that he has, by the way, is pretty cool, where somehow he's able to call down lightning from the sky to strike people dead. But all it ends up being is a bunch of pit crew droids that basically got a little bit too big for their britches and decided they wanted to enslave a race of organics. So the organics, once they realize they'd been duped, they start chasing them off, and R2 and C-3PO get away from all of that. But they don't make it far before R2 starts running out of power. And so he has to stop. He powers down, and C-3PO soon follows. So they're sitting there completely lifeless, and all of a sudden, they are captured by these 2 pirates. And I can't lie, when I saw what species these pirates were, I can't remember what the name is, but I know that they are the same species as Hondo. I thought we were about to see Hondo in this episode. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Yep. Instead, apparently these two people run an illegal droid fighting ring. And no, by the way, L3 is not here. Thank God.
Droid rights.
You know,
John,
restraining bolts are there for a reason. We should probably use them more, as we've learned with the pit droids in L3.
yes, that is very true. um, so C3PO and R2 are charged up to be basically put into this pit. But what they don't know is that Grievous's ship is right behind them. Grievous has captured Master Galia, which is actually kind of surprising because doesn't Grievous usually just kill the Jedi and takes their lightsabers and a piece of them as trophies?
Maybe Dooku tightened the leash a little bit.
Maybe. But at the same time, it's not explained why. It just struck me as kind of odd.
Yeah, I don't recall it ever being explicitly explained, but at least that's what I would assume is there was something big enough for Dooku to give the order she must remain alive.
Yes. And thank you, Alice. Hondo's species is Weequay. Thank you. All right, so Grievous sees the pirate ship ahead of them, and he gives the order to use that ship as target practice. So they open fire on the pirate ship, and everyone is blown out into the vacuum of space. Anyone that isn't a droid dies from this. C3PO and R2D2, because R2 has the rockets on him that we see in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. They fly aboard the Separatist ship, and of course, two battle droids are like, "Hey, where'd you come from?" And C3PO has to be like, "Oh, we're pirate droids. Yes, we're pirate droids." And so they're like, "Pirate droids, you're under arrest. Take them to the incinerator room." And to quote, they're going to get melted down to feed Grievous's war machine. Basically, make other droids. Which, imagine knowing that as a droid, by the way, that you're going to get melted down and turned into another droid. Isn't that kind of messed up?
Yeah, a little bit. And something I just thought
Especially,
about is, wasn't Grievous technically breaking maritime law by not stopping the vessel, searching it, giving the crew and everyone aboard a chance to abandon? Or has that so far been removed from maritime law or space
I don't
warfare
know,
law?
but I think whether it is maritime law or not, Grievous doesn't care.
And neither do the Jedi. False flag attacks? Anyone?
False surrenders?
Yeah. They should follow Marine Corps logic. Get rid of all the witnesses on the enemy's side.
Mm-hmm. And grab all the crayons you can eat. Rock
Yes.
Hill.
Yes. Rock Hill.
All right, so C3P and R2 now are in line to enter the incinerator when the Republic ships, which are this time being led by Master Plo and the Wolf Pack, they arrive and launch an attack on Grievous's ship. Master Plo goes in and rescues Master Galia, and the two manage to escape with R2 and C3PO. And of course, when Wolf sees R2 and C3PO there, he's like, "How in the world did you get here?" And of course, C3PO is like, "Oh my, Commander Plo, so nice to see you. You wouldn't believe the adventures that R2 and I have." And he proceeds to tell him all of what he just happened. And, Master Wolf's like, sorry, I don't really want to hear this right now. And that's how that episode ends.
You want to
Talk
know
about
how
the
they
odds.
survived? Plot convenience.
Pretty much.
It's going to go with an extra thick case of plot armor.
same thing pretty much. So
Well,
rankings for this
apparently,
one. I'm going 3.5 out of 5.
I'm gonna go 3.6 out of 5 because I think this one was less interesting and more plot armor heavy, as I just made a joke about.
3.6 out of 5 is more than my 3.5, and yet you gave negatives.
Whatever. I don't care.
Fair enough.
I'm just saying that it's worse than the other episode, which I think it is.
Honestly, I'm the other way around. I'll give it a 4.0. I think it's a lot more comedic.
Yeah, it 100% was. All right, so that leads us, let me bring it back up on screen. That leads us to the tier list, and we're going to rank this tier with everything we got here. Here's Mercy Mission. Where do you guys think we should put it? I'm personally skewing toward D tier.
Same.
Okay.
All right, D tier. So, yeah, that's our first D tier ranking. Hopefully, it's the only one. Next, of course, is where is it? Where is it? Next is Umbara, which is right here, and that one is the most. Could we call it the most controversial one?
I haven't
As far as
seen it. I don't
characters?
know.
I would say it's definitely one of the more controversial ones, and it's definitely one of the more talked about, and I'd say probably of any one arc to sit there and look at within the franchise or within the series. That's probably the one that most people are recommended to watch because you really get to see the Clone War for what it is, as
Yes.
well as you also get to see, in some ways, before the idea of the inhibitor chip, why it kind of might have been a little bit easier for clones to have committed Order 66 than we once thought.
Yes. Because the clones essentially know the Jedi as a whole. They know their tactics and their way of fighting because they're there in the trenches with them. Therefore, when the inhibitor chip is activated and Order 66 is established, they know exactly how to exploit their weaknesses.
And I would also argue just the way Ponkrell led in that arc. Yeah, I might want a mutiny too. Might just proactively execute Order 66
Yep.
if I was Rex.
Check private chat real quick, Darth Nader. And I am somewhat speaking in code there.
Oh.
John, you don't know, and we're going to keep it that way.
Honestly, I don't care to know.
Okay. All right, so that's it for the Clone Wars stuff. But before we get off tonight, we're going to switch gears. We've already talked about this Wednesday, and I've already made my thoughts well known on this, but Jonathan missed this stream, and we're going to go ahead and let Jonathan and Nate, if he's interested, we're going to go ahead and let Jonathan and Nate shoot on the first 3 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So pretty much the floor is yours, guys.
All right, John, I'll let you go first.
So, I was very impressed with the first 3 episodes of Obi-Wan, and I don't think that they went down in quality like The Bad Batch and Mando season 1 and 2. Like, they are good, then they kind of dip into mediocrity, and then they come back up and are awesome. I don't think that that is the case here.
Okay. And can you give any specific examples of that?
just how well they portrayed Vader as in the third episode, that was awesome to me. And they
Yes.
genuinely made him scary.
Yes, they did. That was even scarier than Rogue One. That was Rogue One Vader times 10.
Though, and I also like how they just had Obi-Wan interacting with Leia. And I also like how they had Alderaan, and for some, I know that I talked to you about this in private, but Alderaan looked exactly how I imagined it.
Yeah, it did. And the fact that they pretty much went out of their way to give it sort of a prequel-esque sheen to it, I at least appreciated that a lot.
Well,
So yeah, Nate, what about you?
I gotta admit, the series was far better than what I thought it was going to end up being. Of course, it's been hit or miss, at least in my opinion, since Disney took over the franchise. I
Hmm.
gotta admit, Uncle Owen coming in there and like you trained his father. Oof.
Hmm.
I have a feeling that's going to be a good meme for a long time.
Oh yes.
you know what I thought when he said that?
I know exactly what you thought. Hold on, I have a clip for it.
Emotional damage.
Actually,
Why did I know
no.
that clip?
It was actually, ooh!
Or maybe it was this.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
So yeah, fair enough. I've shared this before, and I'll share it again. I definitely think this is a better show than Book of Boba Fett was. However, this is the show, and I'm still thinking about it more and more, and my thoughts are still admittedly evolving. This is the show that's kind of hammering it home for me that, and you can blame Phil McCracken in the chat saying this over and over for planting this idea in my head, but this show is driving home all the more to me that literally everything that Disney Star Wars is doing is a fan fiction, and B, a cash grab. Yes, a
Large
major corporation.
corporation?
Yes, it's, I know, shocking concept, but
A
still.
for-profit company assassinating characters for the sake of profit.
Yeah, which, funny enough, this third
Definitely
episode,
not Sega.
funny enough, a lot of people are using this third episode as proof that basically, now I don't quite go this far with it. I don't quite see it yet, but I can see where they're coming from, where they're saying that Kenobi is the last Jedi all over again because Obi-Wan is a broken man, and basically they're pumping this show full of SJW propaganda, same as they did with the sequel trilogy. Again, I don't quite see it, but I can see where others would.
Well, honestly, with Obi-Wan being broken, for him it fits because he just had his apprentice who he's pretty much had this older brother, younger brother relationship with for well over 10 years, a decade. He's just suddenly turned and he didn't really see why.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see that.
yeah, I can see that for sure. By the way, John, who just walked in down there?
Nanny,
Okay, cool.
could you hear it?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
hear it. Is Michael with her, by the way?
No.
Okay. Hopefully he's able to make it. I made sure he got the link and I said join when you can because he went up on the drive with the rest of the family.
Yeah, that's why I decided not to go.
So Yeah, I agree with you guys, though. Vader was great in this last episode. But here's the thing. This is another thing, especially today, that I've realized. The most interesting character to me in this whole show is Reva. She's the most interesting character, but at the same time, the most controversial character. And we don't need to go into all of that, the real world stuff involving the actress. I've already said my piece on that on Wednesday, plus Jonathan's here. I don't want to expose him to that. But here's the thing. We know how Obi-Wan's story ends. We know how Vader's story ends. We know how Leia's story ends. We don't know how Reva's story ends. And call it morbid curiosity. That's kind of what's keeping me still somewhat, from the simple desire to know what happens next. That's what's still keeping me going with this show. Like at this
I
point, I think for me, the hope that things are going to get better overall for Disney Star Wars has pretty much died. It's
now I
just the
will
simple desire of what happens next.
yes. Now I will say with Reva, we do kind of know that she has to be put back into her place because she is trying to shoot well above her britches there, going
Yes,
directly after the Grand Inquisitor. And if I'm not
which Vader
mistaken,
does very well, by the way, with
yes.
his line of "Fail me, and you will not live to regret it."
And if I'm not mistaken, the Rebels TV show takes place sometime within like between 2 and 4 years before the events of um, Rogue One and thus
Five
New
years
Hope.
before the battle. 5 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Okay, 5 years before Yavin, and this is taking place 10 years before Yavin. So we know Grand Inquisitor survives, and we
Yes,
don't hear a thing out of Reva. So I would have to assume she's been killed, or they have sent her to such a far backwater of the Empire that's not even funny.
yeah. And that's another thing that to me has been frustrating about this show is the seemingly all the basically the inconsistencies within the story, and the biggest one being the Grand Inquisitor's death. They could have just done here's what I would have done. I would have not had the Grand Inquisitor in this show at all. Fifth brother, sure. I actually think he's pretty cool. But I would not have had the Grand Inquisitor, and I would have had Reva kill a different Inquisitor. If you're going to have her kill an Inquisitor so that she doesn't steal her thunder on capturing Obi-Wan.
I
But that
still,
Inquisitor specifically, the very first Inquisitor we are ever introduced to in current canon, we know how he dies. But they do this.
yeah, he's chilling in a back to tank somewhere.
Yeah. And however they determine that he survived raises the question, how come Qui-Gon didn't survive then? Because he was stabbed through the exact same way. And
He's an alien species, don't question it.
funny enough, John, they've actually used that excuse already, because apparently the
Yes.
Palin species has 2 stomachs.
They could also argue that medical science and technology has advanced since the time of Qui Gon's death on Naboo, because that was something like 10 years before the start of the Clone War. The Clone War is about 3 years, and here we are about
10 years
decade after
after
the
the Clone
Clone
Wars.
Wars. So you're talking about 23 years. That could also be their other argument.
Maybe. It's just an argument that I don't think that we need to have again. This is actually the second time we've had this type of argument, because we had it in the aftermath of Rise of Skywalker. Remember Rey running Kylo through the exact same way, and then she uses Force healing? This is the second time we're having this sort of argument.
History
We love
does
it.
repeat itself.
Alice83 says, when I saw that you can watch my reaction, I was like, he's alive, right? He's alive, right? However they determine that he is alive, it's going to be the flimsiest pull something out of your butt reason. But
Honestly, I think the stigma to Disney Star Wars is also translating to Marvel, because,
Marvel in some ways has it worse.
well, honestly, except for Spider-Man No Way Home, I would have been fine to leave the MCU at Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I look at it. And the only reason I don't lump Spider-Man No Way Home in with the MCU anymore is because Disney wasn't the sole entity making that movie. That was very much a Sony project. And Sony, at least so far, has handled all of their franchises like that pretty well in recent days. Look at them and look at Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Except for Morbius.
Yeah,
It's
but we don't
Morbid time.
talk about that. So anything else that you guys want to mention about so far the first half of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show before we get out of here?
Well, I have something to mention that's somewhat Star Wars related.
Okay.
I'm going to 100% Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga.
Okay. And speaking of that, by the way, I have decided that's the game I'm going to be streaming when this stream is over.
Okay.
That reminds me, I'll never forget the day years and years ago. I 100%ed the complete saga
Oh,
on Wii.
wow. That is an achievement.
Skywalker Saga is so big.
Yeah, but doing it with the old school way, especially given the limitations I had, being as school, homework, having to
Yeah,
sit
I
there
have
and
all
argue
the. Well, I don't really
around
have.
parents wanting the TV over me.
Well, I don't really have those limitations anymore because I can just play in handheld mode on my Switch, and I'm in summer break right now. But when I got that game, it was still school. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, last question I have before we go. There have been rumors, and we'll cover this in a pre-recorded video at some point. There's been rumors of a possible Kenobi Season 2 in the future. Based on everything that we have seen so far, is this something that A, you guys want to see, and B, think should happen?
Right now, I'm a little indifferent to it. If they keep up the good tempo and with good story arcs, I have no problem with it. But I also do think it would be good to let Obi-Wan rest, for as much as I love seeing Ewan McGregor on screen. It also is going to come a point where it's going to be hard to... Why does he not look like Alec Guinness?
Yeah, and if they try to make him look like Alec Guinness, there's no guarantee they'll succeed, or at least do it in a good way. John,
Honestly,
your thoughts?
I think that this Obi-Wan should serve to patch up plot holes, show how Obi-Wan regained his hope, and just end.
I think so too.
Now, I do like what we have so far, but I cannot say that I find nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. I mean, I just told you guys where my headspace is with this show. In fact, you can go back and watch it last night, gaming stream I was having, playing Fortnite, and of course the usual suspects were in there, and Lord Crit mentioned the rumors to me about a Kenobi Season 2. That's where he had told me. And my immediate reaction was, why? You know, I honestly don't want to see it anymore. And as far as Disney Star Wars as a whole, I am very, very, very fast slipping down the slope of I just don't care about any of it anymore. Which is sad, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I keep getting, even if I don't want to admit it, I keep getting excited for these different things, and more often than not, I wind up either left cold or outright let down. So I know we're ending on something of a downer note, but that's where we're going to go ahead and end this. Nate, you are part of my Discord, right?
I believe so.
Okay. I'm going to double check. If you're not, I will send you an invite. But when I do gaming streams, I'm in my Discord in a section called Gaming Stream Co-host. You're welcome to come over there and hang out and talk with me, and we literally just talk about anything while I
Okay.
play and stream whatever game I'm playing. So yeah, I don't see you, so I'm going to be inviting you now.
Alrighty.
Where are you? It's Napalm Herb Mill. That's it. Okay.
Yep.
Oh wait, no, you are in it. I was looking for a Napalm Strike type name, not Herb Mill.
Yeah, you got
I
Napalm
know.
Strike, Herb Mill, Darth Nader, and Herb MI.
Yeah,
You'll see about 50 million different ones come up.
I know Napalm Strike is you on Twitter. All right. Well,
Old
anyways,
memories.
guys. Yep. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and end this now. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And remember, everyone, the Force is family. See you guys later. Oh, wait. That was the wrong clip. I almost played the Tuesday Night Trek clip. But yeah, still no background noise for this video yet. I'll have some at some point. Or I may just not do it and say random things. Who knows?